The death toll and economic devastation for average Americans throughout this pandemic just will not let up. In fact, recent numbers from the federal government indicate that job losses have been spiking. We noticed this last week, and unfortunately, the report this week is even worse. So a total of 1.15 million workers filed initial claims for state unemployment benefits during the first full week of the new year. And of course, this is based on data that was released by the Labor Department. Another 284,000 claims were filed for pandemic unemployment assistance. And that's the emergency federal program for freelancers, part-time workers, and other normally ineligible for state jobless benefits. Before the pandemic, weekly filings typically totaled around 200,000. So just to juxtapose how severe the situation is right now, we're dealing with 1.15 million filed jobless claims, and before the pandemic, the average was around 200,000. On a seasonally adjusted basis, new state claims totaled just under 1 million, so 965,000. And the government reported last week that the economy shed 140,000 jobs in December, the first drop in unemployment since last spring, with restaurants, bars, and hotels recording steep losses. And so we're experiencing some of that here in California, where restaurants are still shut down as a result of a spike in coronavirus cases. In Los Angeles County, it was just reported that 1 in 3 people living in Los Angeles County have unfortunately contracted coronavirus. So there is certainly an emergency here. And part of the problem is just the unwillingness to coordinate and have true leadership at the top with the federal government. And at this point, so many people are fatigued from following social distancing guidelines, avoiding, gathering with friends. People are still resistant to wearing masks, and the rollout for the vaccine has been a bit of a failure. We need to get as many people vaccinated as possible. And because of the fact that there hasn't been a centralized effort coming from the federal government, and states have been left on their own to decide how they're gonna distribute the vaccine, there have been all sorts of hiccups, and we're falling behind considerably in getting as many people vaccinated as possible. But Nando, before we get to Biden's solution for all of this, I wanted to get your thoughts about where we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the ongoing emergency is just so staggering to contemplate. I mean, and even the numbers that you mentioned, the burden is disproportionately hitting the poor. I just saw that the Fed came out. One of the Fed governors came out today and issued a report saying that the unemployment rate amongst the poorest Americans is actually 20%. So to the extent that the coronavirus economic crisis is happening, it's happening disproportionately for the already poor. For the most part, the top, say, 10, 15, 20% of workers are mostly recovered. Most people that can work from home, do white collar gigs, things like that. But the poorest Americans, the poorest in the working class, are seeing 1 in 5 of them are unemployed right now. So it's just absolutely staggering to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is important to point out the difference between how white collar workers are dealing with the pandemic versus blue collar workers. I mean, when you think about it, the industries that have been hit the hardest are, service jobs, restaurants, people who work at movie theaters, things like that. So, they don't have the ability to work from home, and the problem is further compounded by the fact that Congress really failed in passing robust relief. Following the CARES Act. What we got from Congress was a bill that was under $1 trillion, right? And about around 900 billion. And one thing that doesn't get reported enough about how weak that relief really was is the fact that they didn't really appropriate much in new spending for that relief package. There was money left over from the CARES Act that they decided to repurpose, which then led to that $900 billion figure. I mention that because when it comes to average Americans and providing the relief that they need, we get nickel and dimed. We don't have a federal agency or something like the Federal Reserve reserve that just comes in and bails us out. We have to rely on what gets passed in Congress, and so far what we've seen is really pathetic, especially following the CARES Act. But Joe Biden has made some statements regarding what he plans on doing as soon as he's inaugurated. His first legislative goal is to pass immediate relief to Americans. And there is some debate about whether it makes sense for him to pursue this in a bipartisan way. Now, hear me out. This is what he is proposing. Biden is expected to pledge billions of dollars to underwrite a nationwide vaccine effort, including boosting vaccine production, very important, and delivery, also important, creating public awareness campaigns, and providing for emergency hiring in the public health sector. So what he wants to do is try to find a way to expand the number of available jobs and also help relieve some of the ramifications of the pandemic simultaneously. Biden's short-term relief plan will also include an expansion of a key child tax credit, $2,000 stimulus payments for individuals, and I think this is one of the most important parts, an extension of enhanced unemployment insurance through September. Those unemployment benefits are actually set to expire in mid-March, creating a deadline for congressional action. So Nando, what the debate really centers on is this idea that Biden really wants to go at this with a bipartisan framework in mind. You have people like Marco Rubio who say that they absolutely want these $2,000 checks. So he says he's gonna have this initial relief package, and then it'll appeal to Republicans, they'll vote for it, and then after that, he's gonna push for something more robust. I wanna get your thoughts on that, because there are upsides and downsides to that approach, and people do need relief right away.
I guess my issue would be, I think that he has to do something as quickly as possible. And it strikes me that making a big bill that includes the $2,000 checks, that includes money for state and local governments, that includes a child tax allowance, which is an incredible policy. All these things, like the more you include onto it, the longer it would take to pass, if it could even pass at all. Because these things have a habit of, time does not work in your benefit in these things. Like the longer the debate happens, the less of a chance of anything good happening. So if I were Biden, I would make a clean bill for just the $2,000 checks, nothing else. Maybe some coronavirus vaccine funding, because I do believe that there are 60 votes in the Senate for that. I think you can peel off 10 Republicans or 11 Republicans if Joe Manchin doesn't hop onto it. I do believe it because of what happened in Georgia, which really that race turned on the sort of very clear issue of $2,000 checks, and you have to seize that moment. And so that's what I would do. I would pass a clean bill on just the $2,000 check, not include all this other stuff, which is good stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like I think that's good stuff, but it only works to delay any sort of passage, even in like the most optimistic timelines of something like this. It would be probably months before anything happens, and the last thing you want to do is lose the momentum of what just happened, in which we just saw like the political terrain really change around this very clear, discrete and specific and easily understandable issue, which is the $2,000 checks in your pocket.
Well, Nando, I actually have some very good news, and this is what gives me a lot of hope, because really at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what Joe Biden's strategy is. And let me make my case. So I remember about a month ago, you and I had a discussion about whether or not it made sense for Bernie Sanders to remain in the Senate, where he could have maybe more influence in pushing Biden in the right direction, or should he continue pushing for labor secretary in Biden's cabinet? I am elated that he stayed in the Senate, because the truth is, if Biden tries to pass a relief bill, there's the filibuster to worry about. You need 60 senators to vote in favor of that bill for it to pass. However, when it comes to the budget committee within the Senate, all you need on budgetary matters is a simple majority. So this is great news. And here's what we've learned. Bernie Sanders is not happy with what's being proposed by Biden. And so he wants more assistance provided to Americans right away. He is gonna be the chair of the Senate Budget Committee. And he is putting forward a massive stimulus bill that could pass under these special budget rules with a simple majority. So all you would need is 51 senators who sign on to this. Now, Joe Manchin could serve as an obstacle to that. We'll see, but I like that there are two options here. I like that there's, the possibility of Biden, putting forward something a little more simplistic that could appeal to Republicans and pass right away. But we also have that other option with Bernie Sanders, in this powerful position within the Senate. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I feel a little bit better about policy under this new Congress. I'm sure there are going to be frustrating moments, but it's so critical to have just rational people, more rational people in Congress that actually understand the severity of this situation for so many people. There was just this callousness coming from Republican lawmakers, especially under Trump. And so we'll see how this plays out. But what do you think about the tactic that Bernie might use?
No, the budget reconciliation process is something that they should absolutely use to pass all kinds of good things, and it's the kind of thing that you can use to pass things like the child tax allowance, things that you will never get a single Republican vote on. I get the sense that you can get Republican votes probably as early as next week or the week after around the $2,000 check thing. The budget reconciliation process, as far as I understand it, and I could be wrong because these things are super arcane and complex inside the Senate. It's like the most insane parliamentary body ever designed. As far as I understand, you get like one shot a year at the budget reconciliation thing. And so the Biden administration will have basically 3 shots, right, in the next 3 years or whatever, to pass these things. And so you can do a lot through that, and they should do as much as they can. They should pass, some sort of public infrastructure thing to really, because we're seeing now with the rollout of the vaccine just how depleted our literal ability to just do very basic things that other governments find easy to do. We can't do like the most simple, basic kind of infrastructural demands that we would have. So there's a million good things that they should do in the budget reconciliation process. As far as I understand it, you get kind of like one shot a year to do it. And so that's why I think like do all that smorgasbord of good policy as much as you can in the budget reconciliation process, 100%. But I think that the $2,000 checks, I mean, we just saw the economic numbers. I think the $2,000 checks, if you passed it as a clean bill, if it was just that, I think that there is hope that you might get Republican senators to vote on it. If you pass like this like big legislative package with all these Democratic priorities on it, there's not a single Republican's in it, not a single one. Even if it includes the $2,000 checks, and if Republicans are on record saying they support the $2,000 checks, they'll just say like, oh no, but it's got all this other bad stuff that I don't want. I can't vote for that because it's got all this other bad stuff. I mean, that happens every single time. Like it becomes like a poison pill within the bill. But if you have Republican senators
Congress
on record,
loves poison pills.
Yeah. So that's why I would say just dare Republicans to oppose a clean $2,000 check bill and see what they do. I mean, it's so easily understandable by the public, so popular. I mean, it's like, the poll shows it's like plus 80%, and it's something that everyone can understand, then it's just, I don't know. That's what I would do is pass a clean $2,000 check bill, dare Republicans to oppose it. And if they do oppose it, then you do it through reconciliation along with all the other stuff, but you can do that right now.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I think it's not a bad strategy. So we'll see how this plays out. I do also want to note that you mentioned how much this country is failing because the infrastructure that we're supposed to have in place has been depleted, and Americans are unfortunately paying the consequences of that. When you look at the sheer numbers of people who have died from this virus, I'm just gonna go to this quick graphic that gives you those numbers. The United States has the highest case tally in the world at 23 million, and the highest death toll at 384,700. 1,984, or more than a fifth of the global total. By the way, the number's probably higher at this point. The United States added at least 230,476 new cases yesterday alone, Wednesday, and counted at least 3,922 deaths after setting a record of more than 4,400 deaths on Tuesday. Like, the numbers are out of control, staggering. And it's just, it's frustrating to see how easily people are distracted from this crisis.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.